In the brief instant before the transition between Entropy and Extus, I was hoping that I would get Godzilla and Anguirus back. As the board appeared, I saw that my wish was half granted. I had Godzilla back, but no Anguirus. I would have preferred both, but despite Anguirus' neat abilities, I would have chosen Godzilla if I had to pick between the two. Extus had two different coloured temples, white and pink, a pyramid, what looked like some modern buildings, and two other icons I couldn't figure out at the time. The bosses were Kumonga, Gorosaurus, and not Ghidorah, whom I was dreading to fight, let alone see it. With Godzilla back, I was excited again and eager to explore, yet still cautious. Went to the quiz level first, just as before. This time, Face's questions were more random than ever. Quiz 4. Question 1. Do elephants breathe? Answer yes. Reaction weird face 2. Question 2. Have you ever been diddled by a family member? Answer no. Reaction weird face 6. Question 3. Have you ever killed anyone? Answer no. Reaction weird face 8. Question 4. Is green your favorite color? Answer no. Reaction weird face 10. Question 5. Is the computer the pinnacle of modern technologies? Answer yes. Reaction weird face 4. Question 6. Are you the tough guy? Answer yes. Reaction weird face 12. Question 7. Can you fly? Answer no. Reaction weird face 9. Question 8. Can you stand on your head? Answer yes. Reaction weird face 7. Question 9. Do you hate raccoons? Answer no. Reaction weird face 2. Question 10. Do you feel blame? Answer no. Reaction weird face 11. Question 11. Would you like a new monster? Answer yes. Reaction surprised. Question 12. Will you miss me? Answer yes. Reaction sad. I was happy that I was getting a new monster, but that last question bothered me. Will you miss me? Is Face referring to when I finished the game? I thought, since the renovation of the game's truly otherworldly nature, I wasn't sure what to think of Face, or anything else in the game. But something about that last statement gave me a genuine feeling of sadness from Face. I was thinking about this. The game had gone back to the board. I had a new monster, but I had no idea who it was supposed to be. The sprite had a slight resemblance to Rodan, but the head was totally off. I moved the mysterious newcomer to the white temple icon and I started the level. When I started the level, the screen appeared with the text, "Find the gem." Presumably instructions for beating the level. After I got my first look at my new playable monster, a hairy dark blue creature with bat wings and a skull-like face, named Solomon. And I also found my path was blocked by a beam of light, and a small pillar with a plate on it. I figured that this beam of light was blocking the exit, so I have to find the gem and drop it on the plate to deactivate the beam. How exactly I was going to do that, I didn't know. There wasn't anything in the original game requiring you to find an item to beat the level. I'd have to find out when I obtained the gem. The only direction I had to go on was left, so I proceeded. Solomon was a very interesting monster, to say the least. He was capable of both flight and a heat beam, both of which proved very useful. He could also kick and slash with his wings, but he couldn't duck. The White Temple's music was a vocalizing choir, or a video game approximation of such, It's hard to describe, but it had a very holy sound to it. It wasn't long before I started running into waves of strange new enemies. They did little to stop me. I ran past them while slashing and didn't take any damage. There was a pause between each wave of enemies. After you had killed about 10, there wouldn't be any for about a minute. Then the next wave would appear. And after 5 minutes I noticed holes in the floor and ceiling. Guillotine-mouthed creatures were rapidly flying up and down these crevices. So I had to time my jumps carefully because I didn't know if I would get another shot at this. Luckily I managed to get through without a scratch. Just lucky, I guess. After that I found myself at the end of the hallway, facing some kind of mini-boss. It moved fast and had some kind of projectile that shot in 4 directions. I killed it quite easily using Solomon's heat beam. When the battle was over and I had my gem, which was inside the creature's head. I found I could pick up and hold the gem by walking over to it and holding down B. I made the long trek back to the start, deposited the gem on the plate, which deactivated the beam. I left the stage, and was shown probably the strangest quirk relating to the Solomon monster. Every time you complete a stage or defeat a boss with Solomon, this screen appears. I still have no idea what "still the best" 1973 means. Neither did the date nor phrase has any significance or meaning to me that I can think of. I've spent a lot of time thinking about that. The next level I played was one I called Bronze Pyramids. I used Godzilla and found he had been leveled up to 12 since the last time I played as him in Dementia. The Bronze Pyramids were fairly normal as far as these levels go, but the visuals were quite interesting. Almost unusually colourful and lively. The music had a fittingly Egyptian style to it. It was slow and mysterious sounding. I strolled through the level fighting off various enemies. None were too difficult, although the ants could be a pain if you ran into too many at once. My favourite enemy was a giant reptile that I encountered halfway through. At the end of the level I came to a giant pyramid and engaged in yet another mini-boss fight. Although this one was a bit different because I had to fight 2 of these monsters at the same time. Individually, I could have dealt with them easily, but fighting both at once was challenging. I sped things up by tricking one of the twin beasts into barbecuing his brother by jumping when he uses his flame breath. After defeating the twin monsters, I noticed something strange after returning to the board. I was now able to move my monster piece anywhere in the board without limit. Normally Godzilla could only move 3 spaces each turn, and Mothra could move 5. I wanted to try out Solomon some more, so I moved his piece over to the one with the brown pillar looking icons and coloured dots and started the level. When I got to the level, I realised what the level icon represented. Totem poles. I was greeted by 2 of them right at the beginning. The music had a Native American sound to it. It seemed to be using the same instruments as the Entropy Forest, but was noticeably differently sounding, but still exactly foreboding as Entropy. I walked around for 3 minutes with nothing else in sight besides the totem poles. I didn't realise it until then, but I wasn't expecting another level with nothing alive in it. After all that activity and entropy, walking by all those multicoloured faces, this unnerving level left me feeling like I was being watched. Only about 10 minutes after I started Extus, I was already halfway through. Getting back from the totem pole level, I tried one of the TV screens to see how they were this time. Even more strange than before. Apparently the music for this one was the Uranus theme. I switched back to Godzilla to play another level, and this level, it was quite a surprise. It was a normal city level. The colours were gloomy, but even this was still quite a shock. This kind of level I would expect to see in a Godzilla game, and I was kind of mad I didn't get to play it either. The music was the Earth theme. I found it strange that a level fitting a Godzilla game would show up this late, but there's no point in crying over spilt milk, I suppose. I moved Solomon over to the greyish green icon, which turned out to be a giant high-tech laboratory of some sort. Lots of mechanical drones in this level, but Solomon cleared through them just like that with the white temple enemies. The music was a gritty, industrial beat, but there was also a strange flying cyborg enemy, which was annoying because it would fly away when you jumped to attack it. Also of interest were these large stasis tanks, holding some kind of monster inside. As you would guess, sometimes these monsters would awaken and shatter through the glass. I tried to get past the stasis tanks as fast as possible because the monsters inside proved to be vicious little bastards upon release. At the end of the level was an elevator, which I used to go down to the bottom of the level where the exit was. Along the way, I was shot by a security drone. I couldn't leave the elevator, so my only defense was the heat beam. The last level type was a simple thing I call the Heart Temple, for obvious reasons. Nothing but a big hallway, filled with floating enemies shaped like human hearts. They're incapable of causing you damage, but what they do is running through the level and smashing as many things as possible. But you can fight back easy by just smashing through all of them if they try to charge at you. But like I said, they're incapable of causing you damage. So just smashed through them and got all the power-ups I could. One run through these levels could get the life meter back up, and I would greatly appreciate these levels later. The Heart Temple's music reminded me of a circus theme, and had an overly cheerful sound to it, which gave the level a really weird feeling. Having seen all the level types, I chose Gorosaurus and set Solomon loose on him. The music for this fight was Gizora's theme. It was during this fight I realized Solomon was overpowered. A single well-aimed slash can take down as many as 4 of the enemy's life bars. Due to this, the fight was quickly over. Gorosaurus had no projectile attacks or anything else that could match Solomon's claws. I kept the fight going just long enough to see if Gorosaurus would use his iconic kangaroo kick, which I was greatly pleased when he did. Even though I knew Solomon was my fighting ace, I used Godzilla to battle Kumonga, just for variety. I briefly considered using Mothra, but of course, Godzilla won out. Kumonga was also a simple opponent, no heat beams or anything. He just attacks by jumping on you, stabbing at you with his mandibles. But he also uses his signature webbing stream to paralyze you. Once you get webbed, Kumonga will sometimes take this opportunity to attack, but it's mostly a way to buy some time, like Gizora backing you into a corner until time runs out. Kumonga's music was Hedorah's theme. With Gorosaurus and Kumonga defeated, I was at the end of Extus. Before I fought not Ghidorah, there was something I had to do. I wasn't expecting much from it, but for documentation's sake I took a look at the other TV screen. This was what it was. I don't think there was ever much a reason behind the TV screens. If I were to guess, I'd say it's some random uncontrolled manifestation of the cartridge's abilities. Or maybe this all makes perfect sense to the game. Who knows? Anyways, Mr. Fawcett here's theme was the Saturn music. And now it was time for the opponent I was dreading. Not Ghidorah. Although I'd gained courage with Solomon's combat advantages, I was still nervous. When I started the fight, I was immediately confused. My opponent was not Ghidorah. I defeated the imposter with a few strikes, then not Mogira appeared. Then it made sense. In order to get to not Ghidorah, I had to battle all the previous replacement monsters first, and battle them I friggin' did. Tore my way through them until I found my way at not Ghidorah, who was a Dorax. Once I stopped laughing, I destroyed him with only 2 slashes. Then the music stopped, and I thought I was going back to the board, but the battle wasn't over yet. The real fight was against Chimera, a monstrous hybrid of all the replacement beasts. This was by far the most difficult boss yet. Every attack of his would cut down whole life bars per use. While attacks against him were greatly weakened, Solomon's Slash, for example, was now lucky to take away half a life bar. During this battle I gained a great appreciation for 2 things: the boss fight time limit and the heart tempo. Had it not been for those things, I might not have even beaten the Chimera. During this battle, to take down the behemoth, I came up with a strategy. I would switch between Godzilla and Solomon. As one began to get dangerously low on health, I would take him through the heart tempo, while fighting Chimera with the other. I should count my blessings that Chimera couldn't regain lost health. A very interesting thing about it was the coloured sections of his body corresponding with the different body parts. So each body part effectively had its own life bar. The head was invincible as long as the other parts were present, and would be always the last part to be destroyed. In addition to being difficult, it was also the longest fight by far. Try to remember how many times I got taken out of the fight by the timer, but I lost count around 13. Eventually, I destroyed all the components but the head, which now flew around on its own at incredible speed. Chimera fought well, but I was extremely determined, and once he was reduced to a head, he no longer had the power to defeat Solomon, and I heat beamed him into oblivion. Then it didn't say why, but I think maybe it was down to Solomon's demonic appearance. Since Solomon was out of the question, I went with Godzilla instead. Once I saw the level, the crucifix made sense. The level was a graveyard. I was still on edge, thinking this was some kind of trick. The last level had always involved running from the demonic beast. I wasn't going to be fooled into thinking this wouldn't be any different. So I started running, but after a minute without interruption, I slowed down, and during the time I realized what the music was. I knew it was familiar when I first heard it, but then realization hit me. What it was an 8-bit rendition of prayer for peace from the first Godzilla film. A very sad, powerful song, even in this form. At 2 minutes into the level, I encountered something that I wasn't sure how to react to. My first instinct was to run, but this blue statuesque being simply floated in place, and I felt compelled just to stare at it for a time. Since this was a grave and it was floating over a chapel, I guess this was some kind of angel watching over the deceased. It gave me a strange, warm feeling. I wouldn't say happy, but I felt I was at peace somehow. I had never seen this being before, yet it seemed very familiar to me. Just as I was going to leave, the Hell Beast appeared, and its presence warped the music into a terrifying, discordant screeching, and it transformed the level, desecrating the tombstones as a new ground appeared, comprised of blood-soaked bodies. I could now feel my heart beating out of control. I had no chance of escape with the monster that close. It lunged for the kill, but the angel got in its way. The demon roared and it started clawing through the angel's leg, and tears of blood streamed from its eyes. I wanted to save the angel, but there was nothing I could do. I had to honor its sacrifice and run, and so I ran through the hellish landscape as fast as I could. The beast soon caught up with me, still swallowing the body of the angel, whose legs it had torn off. And this sight changed my terror into anger. I now found myself hating this horrible monster. There was no doubt in my mind that this thing was pure evil, and I wanted it to die. When I got to the end, I remember how it responded to my insult in trance, so I spoke to it and said, "You're going to pay!" This was its response. I had no idea how I would follow up on that threat, and nothing I could have prepared me for the horrors of the final world. Zenith.